Coming up, Carrie Stevens streamer today. This is called the Mrs. Duly Special. It's a less well-known pattern of hers. Kind of an interesting fly in that Carrie Stevens had 3 brothers and 2 sisters. Her youngest sister was named Elizabeth. When Elizabeth married, she married a gentleman by the name of Duly and became Elizabeth Duly. Elizabeth later in life developed an interest in fly tying and would tie, I'm assuming, would tie flies along with Carrie. But at some point, Carrie came up with this pattern and named it after her. So this fly is actually named for her younger sister, Elizabeth, called the Mrs. Duly Special. I get busy tying. I'm going to start the Mrs. Duly Special with my hook in the vise. This is a Patridge CS15 in the size 4. I'm going to go ahead and debarb the hook. For thread, I'm going to start with, this is a Danville 210 denier in white. This is simply so that I can go from one end of the shank to the other just a little bit quicker. Start that about an eye length behind the eye of the hook. Then I want to wrap down in touching turns until I get to, generally about 3/8 of an inch, 1/4 of an inch in front of the point of the hook. With my thread down at the end of the body, I'll trim away the excess. I'm going to tie in the tag of the fly first. I'm using a Danville silver and Mylar tinsel in a size 10. It is a silver tag. So we're going to tie this in gold side up. Now the Mrs. Duly Special does have a tail to it, so I can't just tie this in and then put the body in and wrap this on down. I have to put the tag in and then the rib and the body get applied. I'm going to advance my thread down to around the point of the hook and back up, and then I'll apply the silver tinsel or my tag. Trim away the excess once that's bound in. Now I'll get another piece of Mylar for the rib. Make certain this one's a little bit longer. You don't want to run out as you're wrapping that in. I will again tie this in with the gold side up. I'm going to run this about halfway down the length of the body. If you're wanting to tie these for show and everything and you want a really nice smooth body, I would have this go all the way down to the end of the body. Get one wrap in to hold that. Now I'm going to tie in, oops, I just remembered I got a tail I got to put in. First, I've got to put in a tail of red hackle fibers. I'm simply using this is a Whiting American rooster saddle. I'm just going to peel off some of these barbs down near the bottom here, just a handful of them like that. I'm going to get these together and I'm going to tie these in for my tail. Now the ends of them right here where they're peeled off of the rachis get all these curlies that kind of add a bump, so I'm going to trim that at an angle just to get those out because they'll add more of a bump down here at the back. I'm going to tie those in so they're about 3/8 to 1/2 inch past the bend of the hook. There's pretty much the length of these. If you have some Schlappen that has a little bit longer barbs on it you want to use for that tail, you could. So with my tail in, now I'll put my rib in. We'll go back to my Mylar tinsel. I want to tie that with the gold side up. That way when I start to apply it and it flips over, it will be the silver side out. Now I can put my body in. The body is some floss. I'm using a Danville 4-strand Rayon in a black floss. I'm going to use all 4 strands for this, so I want a good 12 to 13 inches. If you wanted to have a shorter body on these, or if you wanted a shorter hook, you could just do instead of a 10x long hook, you could do a 9x long or something like that. I'm only going to go about halfway down the body here. These are going to be some fishing flies. I'm not as concerned about them being nice and smooth. I'm going to get a little bit of wax on my thread. Advance my thread forward. Now you'll notice I got a little bit of a bump right here because of the butt ends of those hackle fibers. So I'm going to come over this a little bit more, trying to smooth that transition out just a little bit. I'm not concerned in terms of fishing the fly, like I said. But again, if you were tying this to be presented or something, you'd want to try and smooth that out as best you can. Now I'll wrap my thread and touching turns up to the end of the body, which is going to be right about where the return is on the eye on this hook. My thread up here at the end of the body. I'll go ahead and apply the floss and then the rib, and that will complete the body of Mrs. Duly Special. So with the body and rib tied in, I'm going to change over to a red thread. The head on this has a black head with a red band. I prefer to put the red in underneath and add the black band to the front and the back, because I think the red shows up better than adding it to the head afterward. I think it darkens up. Black underneath really darkens up the red. With that attached, I'll tie in my belly, which is some white bucktail, and my throat. Now, I'm going to tie this in. You'll notice my thread is going to be all my head space right here. I'm going to be actually down a little bit from that, where I tie in the bucktail and then the throat, and then on top of that, the peacock herl and the wing. So I've got some white bucktail. You could stack these if you want. I generally don't. You want to make these about as long as the tail, which will be about the same length as the resulting wing. Tie these in, secure those, trim away the excess. The wing is some red Schlappen. Using some red Schlappen here. Go ahead and select a feather. I'll clip out most of the fluff right here. I don't mind some of this on the ends in the throat on these flies. I think it adds just a little bit to it. Traditionally, I don't think you would have that in there. So I'm going to get 3 clumps. I'll have one. They're going to go about halfway down the body. And the idea behind the 3 clumps is that they cover up the thread wraps and the whatever's exposed with that belly. So you have them underneath and kind of on the sides of the fly, cover up any loose excess, shouldn't say loose or excess, but any of the material that's already been tied in. You're kind of covering things up as you move forward. Get my last clump tied in over on this side. Now I'll wrap those down and clean this whole space up a little bit. The wing is some peacock herl, and then the hackles. So with that cleaned up a little bit, I'll tie in the peacock herl. I'm just using this is just some strung peacock herl. If you want it a little fuller, you could get the nice herls like right below the eye of the peacock feather. The barbules on them are a little bit fuller. Again, I'm going to tie this in about the same length as the tail and the belly. I'm going to secure that in, trim away the excess. Now I'll tie in my wing. The wing is comprised of, each side has a black hackle and then a white hackle that's slightly shorter than the black, and a cheek of jungle cock. Very simple, uncomplicated. There's no shoulder on this or anything. Now I could tie these in like this, and actually I like to tie them in each side. I could tie them in with all this excess on there. I tend not to like to do it that way. So I'm going to trim away the excess here, and that will end up giving me just kind of a nice little handle right there for each side of that wing. I'm going to tie in the wing on my side first. You just want to tie this in so that it goes lateral with the hook. When you tie that in, you'll notice it's not actually on the side of the head. It's up in this little upper corner. It's not on the very top or the side. It's in this little corner, which leaves this space over here for the other wing. You also want to make certain that the wing is perpendicular to the hook shank, so it's nice and flush against it. Sometimes that peacock herl can compress a little bit when you tie in these wings. I'll tie the other side of the wing in. And I want to double check that I've got that incorrect, and I do. Generally, you want to make certain your tips match up really nice and even, but I got one a little bit longer. Again, it's a fishing fly, so I'm definitely going to go fishing with these, so I'm not that concerned about it being absolutely perfect. Well, I will clean up the headspace here with a nice uniform layer of red thread, and then I'll attach the black to make the rear and front black bands. I want to be careful with these. It's very easy for the heads on these to get very large in terms of diameter and length. So you want to try and keep that to a minimum. We're going to whip finish to secure the red thread. Trim that away. Now for the black, I'm using a Danville 6/0 in black. By the way, that was, I don't think I mentioned it, it was a Danville 6/0 in red that I used. And here I'm just going to attach the black thread to the back here, securing that tag end in, trim it away. You want to divide the head into about thirds. So you've got an equal black, equal red, and then equal black again. You don't want to bulk that up, so make certain you got everything covered. I like to flatten the thread here and do a whip finish by hand because it's a little bit easier for me to use my fingers to do this back here and get a whip finish tool back that far. It has mostly to do with the actual whip finish tool that I have that I use. I do have some that have a deeper throat. Secure that thread, cut it away. Now I'm going to reattach it to behind the eye of the hook. And I'll trim this away. And I'm going to, once again, make the portion, the forward black portion, you don't want to make it too bulky or thick, but you want to cover up all of those thread wraps. And I'll whip finish this and put some head cement on it, and then come back and put some clear lacquer on that, and that will finish up our Mrs. Duly Special. So that is the Mrs. Duly Special. Very interesting fly, one of the, I guess, more obscure patterns that Carrie Stevens did, but named after or I should say dedicated. Would that be it? Dedicated or named after for her sister, Elizabeth, who became Elizabeth Duly, and also tied some flies with her. Thanks for watching today. Thank you for joining me at the Vise today. I hope you learned a new pattern, at least a tip or trick here and there. If you'd like to help Dress Irons, you can like, comment, share, subscribe, all those wonderful things for the video. You can also head out to dressedirons.com where you can buy flies, tools, stickers, and merch, or you can join a growing community over on Locals at the Dressed Irons Fly Tying Guild. You can also donate to Dressed Irons if you want through the link at the bottom of the description. I thank everybody for their ongoing support, as it really does help the creation of these videos. But what's important is to remember, only fly tying. If you're not having fun, you're doing it wrong.